It was a hot summer evening in Paris. The city had been suffering through a record-breaking heat wave for weeks. The streets were empty, and even the famous Louvre Museum was quieter than usual. Almost no one wanted to be outside in the blazing heat. But for one man, this was the perfect moment. He was about to pull off what many would later call the heist of the century, stealing the Mona Lisa right out of the Louvre. What followed was a global inquiry that spanned 2 years, filled with wild speculations, famous suspects, and misleading clues before the truth finally came to light. Today, we will dissect exactly how the Mona Lisa was stolen, how the thief nearly escaped justice, and the bizarre scheme behind it all. It was a quiet Sunday evening, the 20th of August, 1911. As the Louvre closed for the night, a man slipped inside, wearing the museum's official white work uniform. He looked just like one of the employees, so no one paid much attention to him. He found a small storage closet inside the museum, squeezed himself in, and waited. His plan was simple: spend the night inside and strike when the building was nearly empty. The next day, Monday, the Louvre was closed to the public, which meant very few workers would be inside. At exactly 7:15 the next morning, the man stepped out of his hiding spot. The museum was quiet, almost empty. He quickly walked to the Salon Carré, the gallery where the Mona Lisa was hanging. Back then, the painting wasn't as famous as it is today. It was just another piece of art on the wall. But that was about to change. The thief took the Mona Lisa off its hooks and carried it to a nearby stairwell. Using a screwdriver, he carefully removed the painting from its protective frame. Then he wrapped the canvas in a white sheet, tucked it under his arm, and headed for the nearest exit. But when he tried to leave, the door was locked. At that very moment, a plumber happened to walk by. The plumber assumed this worker was just doing his job, so he helped unlock the door. Just like that, the thief walked out of the Louvre with the Mona Lisa under his arm. The entire heist took only a few minutes. Even more shocking? It would take over 24 hours before anyone realized the painting was gone. At the time, photographers were moving artwork around the museum to take official pictures. Because of this, seeing empty spaces on the walls wasn't unusual. So when the Mona Lisa wasn't in its spot that Monday, no one worried. But by Tuesday morning, when the photographers showed up again and the painting still wasn't there, alarm bells went off. The Mona Lisa was missing. Police were called immediately. Reporters swarmed the story, and newspapers all over the world shouted the shocking news. The Mona Lisa had been stolen. Detectives searched the Louvre from top to bottom. All they found was the empty frame and a single fingerprint left by the thief. France even closed its borders, afraid the painting might be smuggled out of the country. Tips began pouring in from all over the world. Some said the painting was already on a train to Belgium. Others swore it had been shipped to America. Theories were everywhere, and even famous people became suspects. One of them was Pablo Picasso, the world-famous artist. Police discovered he had once bought stolen statues from the Louvre, so they arrested him for questioning. But in the end, Picasso had nothing to do with the Mona Lisa. Another rumor suggested that the American banker J.P. Morgan had orchestrated the theft in order to keep the Mona Lisa in his private collection. However, after an extensive search, the police found no evidence. Months turned into years, and the trail went cold. The Mona Lisa appeared to be lost forever, yet the painting was not far away at all. In fact, it was located in a small apartment just a couple of miles from the Louvre. The thief was Vincenzo Peruggia, a 29-year-old Italian handyman who had once worked at the Louvre. He knew the building inside and out. Even crazier, he was the man who had built the Mona Lisa's protective case, the same one he had easily dismantled during the heist. For 2 years, Peruggia kept the painting hidden inside a trunk with a false bottom. Police even visited his apartment twice, but never found it. So how did he get caught? Eventually, Peruggia grew impatient. He wrote a letter to an art dealer in Florence, Italy, the very city where Leonardo da Vinci had painted the Mona Lisa. In the letter, he claimed he had the painting and wanted to return it to Italy. The dealer agreed to meet him. When Peruggia showed him the painting in his hotel room, the dealer pretended to believe his story, but instead, he contacted the police. Peruggia was arrested on the spot. Shockingly, Peruggia only spent 7 months in prison. He argued that he had stolen the painting out of patriotism, believing the Mona Lisa belonged in Italy, not France. After the painting was safely returned to the Louvre, its fame skyrocketed. Before the heist, it was admired but not the most famous painting in the world. But once the story of its disappearance spread, the Mona Lisa became a global icon. But the story didn't end there. In 1932, a journalist claimed that Peruggia hadn't acted alone. According to him, a man named Eduardo de Valfierno, an art forger, had actually planned the heist. His scheme was brilliant. He hired a painter to create 6 perfect copies of the Mona Lisa. Then, once the real one was stolen, he sold each fake to rich collectors in America, each believing they had bought the real masterpiece. If true, this would mean the theft wasn't just about stealing art, it was about pulling off one of the biggest art scams in history. In the end, the Mona Lisa returned safely to the Louvre, where it still hangs today behind bulletproof glass. But the legend of its theft lives on. What started as a simple crime by a handyman turned into a worldwide mystery, made the Mona Lisa famous, and may have been part of a much bigger plan. So the next time you see the Mona Lisa, remember it's not just a painting, it's the star of the greatest art heist in history.